So, okay, I will continue. Yes, we have seen the git pull command, right? And basically, it brings all the changes, which means all the branches that are in the remote. And the important point is that pull brings these changes, right? And tries to merge them with the counterparts that are in your local repository. So you have some branch name main, another branch may feature, for instance, then it tries to match that into the branches that are related to these two branches in the remote. So there is a default behavior. So unless you want to do something more specific, you may modify this configuration file that is in the config file in your repository. And here it uses some wildcards, as you can see here. So where it instructs Git to do something, right? In this case, get the branches from the remote origin and then match them with the counterparts in the local repository. So I would say this is more advanced. There are some ways to change this behavior, but I just copy and paste it here to tell you what Git tries to do by default, right? So unless you have something more specific, yeah, you can modify this behavior, but this is more advanced, and in most of the cases, you don't need to modify this behavior. But the default behavior is like this one here. So git pull is a combination of two commands. First, it fetches the modifications or branches in your remote, and then it combines, yes, the changes with the ones that you have in your local repository. So you are working with the origin, yes, and the default main. For instance, you can abbreviate this entire name or this entire command with just git fetch and git merge. So this is basically what the git pull does. Yeah. I mentioned that previously. So this is one situation that I faced once. Yes. And here is a way to modify the behavior of the remote, and these options may look different depending on the Git version, right? So Git push will have this behavior. It will send all the changes, branches to the remote by default. Yeah. But again, and be aware of this, it's more advanced. So maybe in general, you don't want to send all the changes from the branches, especially if your project is very big. So you want only, for instance, the current branch, yes, to send the push when you press, you type git push, and then you will send the changes only for that branch where you are sitting at that moment. Yeah? So then you can change this, but I did it once up to now, right? So it's not very common. So, but it's just a, a, a note, right? So that you are aware that this default behavior can be changed, especially, as I mentioned, if you are working on many features or your project has a lot of branches for the features, and you are working just in one particular feature of the large project. That would help. So if you have a brand new branch, right, as the one that was mentioned before, where you create or check out a new branch, then this branch is called new. Then you can push just the first time the branch with this command, yes, to the origin remote, yes. And this is equivalent to doing this git push origin new and git branch set upstream a new and origin new. Yes, it's a compact way to write these two commands. So that in that way, the remote will start tracking this new branch. Then you will be able to git push pull the changes in the branch simply by typing git push and pull. Notice again the default is getting the changes from all the branches. So if you want to show or display the remote information, type git remote and show and the name of the remote. For this particular repository that I had at this time, you can see several things. Here is the remote origin. This was the option for fetching, option for pushing, yeah. And also it gives you information about the branches, right? This can be helpful if there are some branches that are still hidden, as was seen in my previous case here, where I didn't see the upstream master. So you can see what are the branches that are present currently. And also the local branches and yes. So renaming the remotes, previously you saw that by mistake, right? I name a branch like name branches or something like that in my previous example. Let me see, git remote -v. No, this was the correct one. Maybe. Yeah, it was this one where I named the remote as a remote name. And then I can change the name by typing git remote, rename the initial name, which is remote name, and I will give it some name like origin. Yeah. Then when I type git remote -v, you will see that it is named now git origin. if I am not happy with some upstream, well, I want to delete it. I can type git remote remove, and then the name of the remote, in this case, upstream, because as you can see here, I made a mistake, and I put the same for origin and upstream as Alice user. Then I can see that I have only one remote. Yeah. So the next concept that we thought that it could be useful to you is the bare repository. So for instance, if you are starting with a project and you want to get some collaborators, right? Then you can set the so-called bare repository where you don't have the working directory, just the staging area, local branches, and local copy of the remote. This part is missing. And this is helpful, or this is useful, yeah, or could be useful because it could make your bare repository more lightweight, right? Or and the main point is that maybe in the central repository you don't need a working directory because no one is sitting there modifying the files, right? So what you need is just people that get that repository. It's lightweight, especially if you have many files in your repository. Then you just get the entire tree, but in that particular repository where all the people will clone, yes, from, then you don't need the working directory. So how to set the bare repository? Do something similar as we did before. Create the folder. In this case, it's called bare.git. Move to that repository and then do a git init, but in this case with a -- bare. Yes. And then when you clone the bare repository, you can use the -- bare and the location where you put this folder here. Yeah. So as I said, this can be useful if you started just a empty repository where you want all your coworkers to contribute, and this can be easily cloned or in an easier or faster way. So also you can just set a regular repository if you want the files in the working directory present. Oops. So now let me go to something about the GitHub platform. So we have seen this previously with Bigite, and I will go into some other details. Let's see how I am in time. Okay. Yeah, so here in GitHub, in case you haven't set your account and yes, the account for this platform, then here you need to sign up, right? And after you sign up, you can write your username, email, and password, and then you will get into your working space. Yeah. And in my case, it looks like this. If you go to the left corner, then you will see a username, and here are the repositories that belong to you. So if you want to create a new repository, then there is a button, yes, that says new. And here you can start creating a repository that later on, when it's ready, can be cloned, yes. So this is what I did with the example that I mentioned before. So you start in this space, and then you propose some name for the repository. You say if you want it public or private, depending on how you want to work. You can add the description. And also it asks you if you want to add an initial README file and the git ignore files that I mentioned in my lecture during the first day. So the README file is useful because then when you go to the main page, you will see a description of what the repository is about. Let me see if I have this README. So for instance, in this case, I have a README file, and here the information or the main information of the repository is displayed in a render manner, right? So GitHub suggests some steps that you can take for your brand new repository. You can create a new repository on the command line. This is what I did. If you remember, for the repository when I created, and then I added the remote. So here, imagine that you are in your repository, then you do git init in the folder. So add some README file, commit, and then if the name of the branch is master, you can use that or change that to main, and then just add the changes and do this git push, right? Or you can push an existing repository from the command line. So then you do this git remote add the name of the recently created repository, and then use the name of the master branch and push the origin. Or if you have some repository from a different platform, then you can import the code from that URL location. So this is something that Birgitte has mentioned before, setting the SSH keys. And the way to test it, if that works, is by using these commands. This is for Bitbucket, and this was for GitHub. There is something similar for GitLab. So this is the place where you can paste your SSH key to get access to the repository. And here you can give it some name. Yes, yes, and Andre.
You need the flag U when you do the push.
Yeah, because yes, because in that case it will start tracking the branch. This is what I saw, what I showed before. Okay, let me see. There are many different tools in GitHub. I have explored only a few of them, right? Because the number of features is big, right? And some of them are more relevant to me. And this is just a particular feature that I was interested in some time ago. So if you go to your account and in the Git repository and go to the insight, then you can get information about who committed and when it was done, the commit and the commit name in a network graph way. Yeah, so this is very useful. But there are also other tools that you can explore under these tabs. So now pull request. This is a concept, right, that involves working with the upstreams that we have set, right? And so this is the situation. So Bob has its own repository in GitHub. Alice finds it useful and forks it, right? So this is what I did at the beginning when I forked the repository from Bob. So Alice, no, Alice has permissions to commit to put modifications only on this repository. And then Alice clones, right, the origin. So, and Alice start working here. So now that Alice has done some modifications, so Alice put or push the modifications into her fork repository. Yeah, because it's the only repository where Alice has permissions to push, right? So because now the repositories from Alice and Bob are not synchronized, so Alice can ask Bob to please get the modifications that she considers useful, and this is the so-called pull request. So I can try this. Let me see. So if you remember, this is the project that I forked from Bob, right? And let me see. Okay, this is a different project, because in this case I clone directly from Alice. But right now I don't have permissions to put changes in the Alice project. So what I will do is to move this to something like point. And then here, this is the folder where I have permissions to write, because this is my account, as you can see here. I forked this repository from Bob, right? So what I can do now is that I can clone this repository. So now if I type git remote -v, then I see. I need to move inside my first project. Okay, now you can see that the origin, yes, is in my project, yes, that is in my account, and here I have permissions to commit the changes. So what I can do now is that I can list the files. There is a README file, and I will do some modification. For that, I will go interesting. What is it? My first project, this one, okay. Okay, so now I am in the folder, my first project. Let me see, git remote -v. Okay, it's the correct one. I will open my file, which is README. And here I can start adding last line. And so finish. And then let me save my file. Yeah. So I did some modification to this file. Then if I check the status, you will see that it was changed. Then I can add it and commit the changes from my account. Yeah. Now these changes are in my local repository. Then let me type git status. So it says your branch is ahead of origin master by one commit. Yeah. Git push to publish your local changes. So you can do git push origin master. But we have seen that the default is to push the branches from the origin, right? If you don't modify that. So, but there are a shortcut, because this is the default behavior. You can only put git push. So, and because I have access to this particular repository, right? Then I can, Thomas.
You were talking about yesterday this thing regarding master versus main, and that main was something that you should use with GitHub. But now in your example here, you are using master and it seems to work okay. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, yes, that's correct. If you take a look, I set this repository in 2020, and at that time, master was, I don't remember if it was the only option, but it was not that known, yes, about the main. But currently, Git is asking to set it as main. Yeah.
You can change it in
Yeah.
GitHub. So if you prefer, if you have one that is master, then you can just set it to that in GitHub for the repository.
Yeah. So, and now you see I have push the changes, and if my key is correct and everything is correct, then you can see that the last line is already on GitHub, and this is 2 minutes ago. Yeah. So now you can see here that the branch is one commit ahead of the Bob user. Bob user repository is not updated by default, right? So that's why we need to do to make aware Bob that we did something on that repository. And one way to do this is by going to, let me see if this is correct. If you go to the initial Bob project, right? And then you tell, let me see. No. Let me see how I did it. Let me see. Now I am, okay, I am in the Bob's repository, and okay, let me see. Pum, pum, pum. Sorry, I got a bit confused of my settings. This is my repository, right? You can see here. Then I go to pull request, yeah, and then I create a new pull request. Hope this works. Ah, yes, it seems to be working. Oh, I got a bit confused. Let me see. Interesting. Somehow I cannot see the Bob's repository that I forked. But why I cannot see it? Okay, I see. Let me see. I am not in the correct. Okay, I see. Oh, I am sorry for this. Oh, I think I was in a different repository. So this is the repository from the project. Then let me go to pull request. Yeah. And yeah. Now I can see that I was in a similar repository. Let me go to yes to one point where it can be clearer. So now let's see here in my first project, right? I have committed the last line that I did locally, yes, in my terminal here, right? And then I push the changes. It is already here. Was 7 minutes ago, and now the Bob repository is not synchronized with the one that I have. Now you can see that Git knows that I forked from this repository, and then I can start the so-called pull request. Yeah, and in the pull request, I start the new pull request, and you can see here this point that the master branch in my repository will be merged into the Bob's master repository. And because this is a small change and Bob hasn't done any change yet, right? So it says it is able to merge. But imagine that Bob was also working on that particular file or folder that I modified. Then he already pushed the changes to the repository. I modified the same file at the same time, push the changes, and then when I try to merge it, it will say that there are some conflicts that need to be solved. But in this case, it says able to merge, and the branches can be merged automatically. So then I can start creating the pull request, right? You can give it some title and some description here, detailed description. And here you create a pull request, right? So it says that the one pull request is created, right? And Bob in his repository it will see that there is a pull request, yes, from this user here. These are the changes that are mentioned, right? And here, Bob or I can start putting some comments. And when the pull request is finished, when the feature is aggregated or is rejected, then you can close the pull request. Yeah. Yes, this is a way that to make a Bob aware of our changes. If we don't have permissions to work directly on this repository, right? Especially if this is a big project. So let me know if this was not clear. So I got confused because I had here a very similar repository, yeah, with a similar name that it was forked from a different place. Yeah, Tomas.
Yeah, just to recap here. So when you did the pull request, you did that from your own repo. You didn't go to Bob, right?
No. Yeah, that's true. That's what.
Thank you.
Yes, that's what I did. Okay, now let me. And this is what we have done with the pull request. And then Bob will get an email, yes, saying that you want to do a pull request, and then he can go to the repository and check that. So you can also put some names to the issues. Let me see if I mentioned the issues. Yes, there is an option in GitHub to write some issues for the with the repository. So if there is some issue with the repository, there is a button, yes, to write the issues, which should be here, but I cannot see it. Interesting. Here, well, if you don't see the issues options here, go to this one, right? And here you can add some of the, oh, interesting.
This is a forked repository, and it may be so that all issues should be done in the repository that you have forked from.
Okay. Thank you, Diana. Yes. Let me go to this. Well, I fork from this repository, and then, yeah, if you go to the initial repository, then you will see this option where you can start writing some issues, right? Create new issue, and then you write some problem that you faced either with installing or with the code, right? So depending on the project, there are some policies for writing this, right? And you should read about how to write an issue. But once you do that, the issue will have some number, right? And then you can refer to this number. For instance, in this case, the issue was number 2. You can refer that in the commits, right? And then that will be directed to the issue just once you click on the number that is highlighted. Yep. So there are many good practices that you can do upon working with other people, right? And here are only a few of them, right? So we have seen some issues when you type some commands that rewrite the history, and it's not a good idea to do that on public branches, and you should avoid that. You know? Don't accept pull requests right away. It needs to be checked and pass some testing cases, right? The last thing that I can mention briefly, let me see if this works. It's here. Let me try with this repository. I will update it. Okay. So here is the repository that I have on GitHub, and here on this under this option, I have the local tab, and also this one that is called code spaces. This one is used for cloning, yes, and other options like downloading the zip file with all the files. But here under code spaces, you can create a so-called code space, right? Which provides you with several features within, yes, GitHub. So let me create one, right? And the first thing that you notice is that you get a VS editor, right? And you also get a terminal. I can increase the font size here. I will avoid these messages. So this is exactly a VS editor, right? And it's similar to what I have installed in my local machine. Yeah. So here there is available, yes, a terminal, right, that you can use. For instance, here you have some Git installed. If you type Git version, you will see that you have a newer version of Git. So I have, for instance, the 2.39, and it provides me with the 2.42. And here you can do exactly what you can do in your local machine. So let me start or add some modification with the file. I will add here a 6th line, right? Then I save the file. Yeah. So, and if you go to this terminal, you see that you are located in the current folder for this repository. You can check the status, and it says that the file was modified, right? So I can add it. And also I can commit it. 6th line from code spaces. Yeah. Check the status. And I can also do the git push. And when you do the git push, it will automatically synchronize with this repository. So this is a way to work online, yes, without installing. But the problem, and the most likely this is the biggest problem, is that these code spaces give you only some time, like 50 hours. You should check that twice, and then you will need to pay for this. But this is a good starting point if you want to do some fast calculation or fast modifications, I would say. So is there any questions at this point? So you can also save the time if you go to the repository where you created the code space, and then you can see that the code space is still active, right? So if you don't close it, if you don't stop it, it will continue and it will consume your time. So I can stop it. And then if you don't need it anymore, so you can delete it. So it would be great if this will be available, yes, always, but they give you only some time, yeah. Yes,